What's up, folks? It's the Gentleman J. Brad here, and today I'm coming to you all to talk about my personal hopes and dreams for the future of the Kingdom Hearts series. Kingdom Hearts is very near and dear to me, being my all-time favorite video game franchise. I've been playing these games since I was 12, and the first game came out right around my birthday way back in 2002, so needless to say, it's grown and evolved right alongside me. The road to Kingdom Hearts 3 has been quite a journey, and I've come to understand a lot of what the series is, isn't, and has the potential to be, so expect more videos on this and other subjects in the future. I'll be listing off 14 things that I'm hoping will come to pass in subsequent entries, with there being no particular order except for the final thing being my number one choice. So, without further ado, let's get started.
7 black pieces, and... just watch.
It's a tired meme, I know, but I'm not going to pretend that Kingdom Hearts, at least throughout the Xehanort saga, did not have a needlessly convoluted story. It was a lot of fun to be sure, but things certainly came close to going off the rails once we got to Dream Drop distance. Time travel, multiple personas, people becoming vessels to this, that, and the other, it was getting out of hand. Now that things have clearly moved on into a direction centering around the foretellers, I think we can expect to see a much more to-the-point story involving them, along with Luxu and the Master of Masters, all having their own specific agendas and plans, whether it involves bringing the Master of Masters back, opening the box, or dealing with the long-term consequences of the Dandelion's actions. I'm also looking forward to the idea of the foretellers being emissaries of light, yet still being the antagonists. I think that'll help bring nuance to the KH universe and allow for some delicious court intrigue. The back cover movie already supplied us with plenty of this more political side of the series, and I personally find that stuff fascinating. If I had to choose an idea for setting up the next saga, I'd have it go a little something like this. Sora is lost somewhere in Shibuya. The Wayfinders are in the realm of darkness. Mickey, Donald, and Goofy are revisiting every, I assume, Disney World looking for clues. The Twilight Gang are sifting through Roxas and Shion's memories, and Kairi is asleep while Riku and Naminé are off somewhere. This would be a perfect time for Luxu and the Foretellers to waltz in and take over. After the Guardians return from having been gone for however long, the Foretellers supplant and assume power over them, as if they were leading their old unions again. Maybe even try and indict or exile Sora over something he had done, most likely over his abuse of the power of waking, or getting the Keyblade bequeathed to him by Xehanort himself, leaving him a fugitive on the run. This could then lead to both him and the other Guardians trying to unravel the secrets of the Dandelions in order to stop the Foretellers, tying everything together. And what of Mistress Ava? Is she back with the Dandelions? Is she secretly Kairi's grandma? How will Union Cross eventually converge with the main plot via Ventus's connection? Who killed Strelitzia? Maybe this plot won't be as straightforward as I thought. Well, all I know is that I don't want to have to pay an extra $30 to find out.
That would be an unfortunate denouement.
Is this supposed to be a Keyblade? Or is it some sort of joke?
With the new additions to the combat of Kingdom Hearts 3, it's clear that Nomura and his team have much more in mind for what Keyblades as a weapon are capable of. However, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed with the Keyblades we got to choose from compared to previous games. Most of the ones we get by playing the game are almost all based on the Disney worlds and a couple of Disney-themed minigames, with the exception of Shooting Star, Starlight, and Ultima. The other exceptions, Midnight Blue, Phantom Green, and Dawn Till Dusk, are obtained through pre-orders and don't really do anything different or better than the others. Then you've got Oblivion and Oathkeeper, which should have been in the base game, obtained through a patch. I would have much preferred if they had original, non-minigame or non-Disney themed Keyblades introduced throughout the story or after certain bosses, almost as markers for turning points throughout the plot. Like when Kairi gave you Oathkeeper in Kingdom Hearts 1, or when you got Bond of Flame after Axel sacrificed himself in 2. I don't see why Sora can't obtain Master's Defender after defeating Aqua, considering Sora uses it twice beforehand. It's not like she's using it anymore anyway. The upgrade system is interesting, but I wish that you could only upgrade Keyblades if you use them enough. It didn't seem all that fair that you could beef up weapons that you never used just because you had spare mining materials. Perhaps this would be a good way to reintroduce tech points from Kingdom Hearts 1. Every time you perform specific moves, blocks, and combos and tricks with a particular Keyblade, you would accumulate tech points to it and level it up along with the necessary materials. Maybe also have the Keyblade transformations be special upgrades you can acquire. Basically, if you want to unlock the Hyper Hammer and Drill Punch transformation from Favorite Deputy, for example, and maybe even the abilities and buffs that come with it, you have to work for it. I understand that some people might not like this idea, but I just don't see much use in having upgradable Keyblades if all of the perks you can get from them can also be gotten from accessories or recipes. Same thing goes for summons. I like the summons in each of the mainline games in principle. However, I feel that as the series has progressed, the versatility and overall usefulness of the summons have lessened. In Kingdom Hearts 1, the summons were fairly straightforward as to what they were meant to do. For example, Genie was really good at keeping multiple targets at bay. Bambi was really good at providing MP orbs and items. And Tinkerbell was easily the most useful summon with her periodic healing. However, in 2 and 3, I can honestly say I don't really remember using them much, if ever. Which is a shame because I think that introducing characters through summons that otherwise wouldn't have their own worlds is a very clever idea. But if you're going to have summons, I feel that they should have a unique ability that can be seen as immediately valuable within certain situations, and provide a deliberate avenue of strategy. When you've got Keyblade transformations, team attacks, shot locks, situation commands, and grand magic, what do you really need summons for? I mean, my goodness, even the attraction flow felt more useful and intuitive than summons did.
Do we really need the cheese at all?
Why, you big stupid
What?
cow?
What did I say?
Why do you
don't mind you that I'm not
like
attacking
this?
you, I'm attacking you,
Just let me do
stupid
it.
old... I know the Keyblade didn't choose me, and I don't care. I'm proud to be a small part of something bigger. The people it did choose. My friends, they are my power!
As much as I love Sora, some of the best moments in the series were when you got to control other characters within certain segments of each game. I feel it helps expand the scope of the story, as well as make the player feel more connected to various characters as well. Chain of Memories, Birth by Sleep, Days, Dream Drop Distance, and 3 all accomplish this pretty well. I do, however, think that there should be some changes as to how they go about it. For example, in Birth by Sleep, you go through each character's story entirely before you move on to the next character, meaning that once you defeat the final boss of a character's story, you then have to start back from the beginning for another one. I felt it would have been much more engaging to have each segment of each character story layered in chronological order. That way, you not only have the emotional momentum of the story staying strong throughout, but there's also the addition of switching between characters more frequently, almost as if they were in your party to begin with. Now, as I mentioned earlier, each set of characters is off on their own very separate journeys, so I don't see the possibility of this issue coming up. If you're going to switch to different characters for smaller segments, like at a boss fight, it would be helpful to at least allow for a brief moment for players to see what the available abilities, items, and button layouts the character has are. Remember when you had to fight Aqua as Riku, and suddenly your shortcuts are all different? Perhaps a little pathway leading up to that area first so that you could access the start menu would have been beneficial. This would also be interesting if, like in Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop Distance, other characters got to explore certain areas in depth in ways the others couldn't. And given how little we got to see of Twilight Town, Land of Departure, and Radiant Garden, I think there's already a precedent for this, and I think the fans would greatly appreciate it. The Xehanort saga is over, and I can't say I'm too interested in seeing him make a real return in any future titles outside of flashbacks. The new Dark Road game looks a bit intriguing, I guess, and I could deal with it being in the same art style as Union Cross if it means they have some sort of overlap or if the latter will be ending before the former. Either way, I would greatly prefer it if it was more supplementary to the plot rather than necessary to follow in order to understand what's going on. I think most Kingdom Hearts fans are getting more than a bit annoyed at this point with how Union Cross has been updating its story. In fact, now that I think about it, a game involving Xehanort's past probably should have come out well before the release of Kingdom Hearts 3, so that Xehanort's sudden turnaround after the final battle didn't feel so abrupt. Yet another argument for why the content featured in Remind should have been in the base game. That cutscene with a younger Xehanort and the Master of Masters should have occurred right at the beginning after the chess game scene with Ericus. I really hope that going forward, Nomura and the writing team develop a better understanding of the importance of foreshadowing and plot pacing.
Now that my body is about to perish, you and I will have to join together.
Vanitas, on the other hand, I think should stick around. There is a great amount of untapped potential for character development, not to mention the precedence a character like him sets for the series as a whole. Vanitas is a surprisingly complex villain, and I think that because he has a very direct connection to Sora, Ventus, and possibly Maleficent, this could mean that he could act as a nemesis that exists outside of the Foreteller Circle. Let us not forget that Vanitas himself is supposedly made out of pure darkness and therefore oughtn't be as easily defeated as Xehanort was. I would love to see a scenario in which he joined with Maleficent and Pete, acting as a dark counterpart of Sora, Donald, and Goofy. Also, seeing as how the Wayfinder trio is currently exploring the realm of darkness to search for answers as to Sora's disappearance, I think this would be a good setup for a possible reunion similar to that between Riku and Repliku. Also, I don't think that Sora got to spend nearly enough screen time with Ventus or Vanitas at all anyway, so this could be a good way for all three of them to understand each other more, and thus make their character dynamic become that much more engaging. I like the Heartless. I like the Nobodies. I like the Unversed, and I even like the Dream Eaters. However, I'm not particularly interested in seeing any new forms of monsters come up. Now that Xehanort has been defeated and all the organization members have become recompleted, I can't even really see much need to fight Nobodies or Dream Eaters, except in the case of Kingdom Hearts 3 where Sora was able to summon them. This brings me to another thing I'm looking forward to. How exactly do the Foretellers, Lushu, and the Master plan on fighting the Guardians? With Heartless or what? We still don't quite know their origin, and since the news story focuses a lot on the far past, now would be a really good time to explore that. Vanitas, of course, would use the Unversed. I would actually like to see a lot of Heartless featured in Union Cross that weren't in the main game to make a return or be included. There were a lot of very excellent boss designs in that game, even for being mobile. I would also like to see more non-monster enemies, whether they be enemies specific to a world story, like humans or machines, etc. Having special enemies helps make each world feel that much more unique, which leads me into the next point. One of my biggest issues with Kingdom Hearts 3 was how it handled its world choices. There was a good chunk of worlds that were barely explorable or just not explorable at all. Twilight Town, Realm of Darkness, Land of Departure, and Scala ad Caelum were greatly downsized compared to previous and future versions. Destiny Island's Radiant Garden and Mysterious Tower were only for cutscenes. There was no real sense of a hub world either, which was kind of a bummer. I also felt that there wasn't enough variation between the Disney movies that were chosen. By that I mean I wish they could have selected worlds based on properties that were maybe a little bit older or perhaps less expected. I understand that including newer properties can allow for it to obtain more mainstream spotlight, considering how the movies are a lot fresher within the general public's minds. I mean, Frozen did kinda make over $1 billion. Twice. But there was a part of me that felt a little bit let down by every new world being either Pixar or a revival era movie. Unlike in previous games where there was more inclusion of films from various points throughout Disney's history, 3's choices felt a bit too, well, safe and predictable. But then again, I didn't particularly enjoy any of the revival era films too much. Maybe it's just me getting older, but that's another topic for another video. Speaking of, keep on the lookout for a future video in which I discuss which worlds I would like to see in future games. The characters of Verum Rex, aka Nomura's Revenge, seem cool and all, but I hope we don't get into the habit of just adding 5 or so new characters every game without giving them proper room to grow. We still have the Dandelions, Foretellers, and newly recompleted organization members. It's unlikely that they'll stop being a focal point of the next saga, so let's take things slow, break these new characters in a bit, and learn how to share the space before moving on to the next thing. We have no clue as to what way Yozora and the Verum Rex gang fit into the broader Kingdom Hearts universe as a whole, so if it's something completely new that we've never seen before, or some new development of a pre-existing element, like time travel, data worlds, or whatever, I'd like for it not to cause any world-building overload. In fact, I would greatly prefer it if, rather than a full-fledged Verum Rex game, we have some sort of KH2 style prologue where we'll control Yozora, perhaps with the final boss of it being Sora or the Master. And that tells us all we need to know while still leaving room for the characters to grow later, like with Roxas. How cool would it be if it was an open-ended boss like in Limit Cut, and the course of the game is affected by whether you win or lose? Speaking of, anyone else notice that when you lose to Yozora, he seemingly did the exact same crystallization thing to Sora that Xehanort did to Kairi? Is he imprisoning Sora for his own safety? How did he hear of him? What does his true form really look like? What were the trials he claims to have gone through? And does he know that the Master of Masters is there seemingly watching? And I'm rambling again. Dream Drop Distance in Kingdom Hearts 3 greatly improved the way in which Sora and friends explore and interact with each world. Things such as flow motion, wall running, air step, and even an improved swimming mechanic have now allowed for worlds to feel much less like mere hallways and trails, and more like real environments with real form to them. This is especially true in the urban environments where we can now run up buildings and easily traverse long distances without having to deal with cheesy platforming or frequent transition screens. Here's the thing, however. You need to fill the worlds with things worth searching for, be they rare items, fetch quests, rare scenes of dialogue, or Easter eggs. I remember playing Birth by Sleep on console and being almost unnerved by how empty the worlds felt compared on the PSP. This was one of the reasons why, in my opinion, Kingdom Hearts 3's Caribbean level was so much better than San Francisco. They both had chests, lucky emblems, and Moogle photo missions. But the Caribbean to me really felt like I was discovering things hidden and tucked away inside caves, underwater, or within sunken pirate ships. San Francisco felt a bit too open. All of the treasure chests were either on a sidewalk or on top of a building, with Hero's Garage being the only place that's not outside. I'm not saying that I wanted San Francisco to feel like a Grand Theft Auto game or the newest Spider-Man game, but that kind of stuff makes all the difference in terms of rewarding the player for going the extra mile. I know for me personally, all of my other favorite games that make a point to really explore your environment do what they need to make it worth your while. I also think this would be a good opportunity to do what those games do and exposit the lore of the series via exploration. The secret reports are great, and the character vials we've been getting from the Ultimania that delve into the characters' personal feelings should have been added along with them. Scattered throughout the worlds, or added into Jiminy's journal, or better yet, just have cutscenes that show us how they're feeling, rather than tell us, to really help flesh them out a bit more without having to interrupt everything like Mickey did. Again, weave these types of things into the story and the game, rather than breaking the flow of things. This is what Scala should have done. We got to see more of it in Remind, but we ultimately learned nothing about it. I understand that the series has had similar instances like Twilight Town in Chain of Memories, or The World That Never Was in Kingdom Hearts 2, but it's still frustrating. We also should have been able to go into the room where Ericus and Xehanort played chess, because it's not like they didn't have the assets to do it. It's not like they didn't make a cutscene into a trailer at E3 of Sora going into the room. Why wasn't it added in Remind at least? Again, wasted opportunities.
Hello?
Hey, you! I'm looking for somebody. Have any of you seen a guy with spiky hair?
We've all been there. You and some others are discussing potential worlds for future Kingdom Hearts games, and someone suggests something like, I don't know, Fox and the Hound or something, and you're like, okay, but what would you really do though? Don't get me wrong, I love those kinds of movies, but do they really need their own world? One of the best parts of Kingdom Hearts 1 was that there were a lot of references, allusions, and cameos of both Disney and Square characters who didn't have their own worlds, and most of them would go on to reside in Traverse Town, and later Radiant Garden, like Merlin, Geppetto, the Dalmatians, and Scrooge. Then you have all the various participants within the Colosseum matches. This is great because, once again, it helps expand the scope of the Kingdom Hearts universe and the implications of being able to travel to different worlds. It's also why Disney Castle, Disney Town, and even Timeless River are so valuable as levels, because they allow us to chip away at the lore of Disney's canon without bloating the game. Not every single movie needs a level, and I don't think we could work an entire or even partial plot to a Final Fantasy game into a level. The cameos we've gotten so far make plenty of sense within the Kingdom Hearts universe, and I would like to see more of them. Perhaps have Lightning in a tournament battle like Cloud and Zack before her, or have Ariel and Eric settle down in Twilight Town to raise their daughter Melody. And of course, we can't be forgetting about the Twelly kids in Shibuya. I for one would love it if we were able to get Oswald the Lucky Rabbit into the story. I think that'd make for a very interesting side plot for Mickey. Given how we'll be getting an Oswald the Lucky Rabbit cartoon series on Disney+, I could definitely see this happening.
All right! Olympus Coliseum, here we come!
Now that we have more open exploration with the Gummy ship, I don't see why this element cannot be expanded upon through integrating plot points during the actual Gummy ship portions of the game. We have mining, constellations, treasure spheres, and boss fights. Why not races and treasure hunts as well? There are already a couple of ways to include Keyblade gliders, maybe a couple of Final Fantasy airships, or even Disney IPs that focus on space or air travel. And that's not even the only way characters get around either. How about Yensid's train, the Cornerstone of Light, the portal to the Data Twilight Town? Will we be able to visit Wreck-It Ralph's world similarly to that, or to how we got into Space Paranoids? Also, Birth by Sleep seems to indicate that Keyblade armor functions kinda like a spacesuit anyway, so I could see a scenario involving our heroes exploring space outside of the actual ship. Which leads me to my next point.
You were born for these sorts of games.
As much as it pains me to say it, the Olympus Coliseum is played out. It's given us a lot of great moments throughout the series, including some of its best boss fights, but story and gameplay wise, it's given us pretty much all it can give. That is why I propose that the series bring back the Mirage Arena from Birth by Sleep. One of the advantages that the Mirage Arena had was that it didn't need any story to explain it. You just go in and do your thing, there were no bones about it. And it wasn't just fighting either. In addition to tournaments, you had Rumble Racing and the Command Board, two of the best minigames in the series in my opinion. You could even bring back other minigames like Struggle, Flick Rush, and skateboarding. Maybe even a card game like poker or something. Luxord's supposedly coming back anyway, right? It isn't like there isn't any precedent to do any of these given how Mirage Arena basically functions like a holodeck. You could even have upgraded Kingdom Classic games, like an arcade of some sort, and introduce the Wreck-It Ralph world through it. Also, how about multiplayer? Again, we had it in Birth by Sleep, and I'm willing to bet that Union Cross will probably be ready to end and then transition to Dark Road by then. So why not merge the two? Maybe have your old character be playable again. That'd be awesome.
I have new clothes for you too, Sora.
Yeah?
A gift from the good fairies.
I knew you'd come through for me! Thanks!
Tetsuya Nomura is legendary in the business for his cool character designs, and Kingdom Hearts is no exception, with some of the outfits featured becoming iconic within modern gaming. Even within the series itself, you have fan favorites such as Sora's Tim Burton couture, Roxas's black and white streetwear, and of course, the hooded coats. I think it would be great if we took a previous element used in a fragmentary passage, the wardrobe system, and then rework it into the items of the game. For example, you have all of these accessories that you equip to boost your stats, but they're never really visible once you exit out of the menu. So why not make them visible and then also have clothing that works similarly? How cool would it be to unlock classic outfits from throughout the series? I would love to see Goofy and Donald in their original outfits again. In Kingdom Hearts 3, we had photo missions where the Moogles would send you around all over the place to take photos of stuff, and then they would give you items. I could definitely see them doing something similar to this. In fact, these missions in particular I found the best. I also think it's about high time that the Destiny Trio got themselves some Keyblade armor like the Wayfinder Trio does. I think they've earned it, and again, you could reincorporate this into the system by having them be earned through completing special tasks.
Good. Sora, don't ever change.
Huh?
I just can't wait. Once we set sail, it'll be great.
The characters of the Kingdom Hearts series have been through an awful lot over the years. We've seen them experience all kinds of trials, hardships, and literal heartbreaks. But now that the saga has come to a close, I would really like for there to be something to show for it. When we get Sora back, along with developing new heroes and new villains, I want it to all really mean something. And not just mean something in the broad sense of character development, but rather character growth that shows a clear dividing line between who they were at one stage in their lives and where they are going as they get older. A clear passage of time. For example, Riku is the only one within the Destiny trio who is a certified Keyblade master. What exactly does this mean for him and his relationship with his friends? Kairi is supposed to be a princess of heart. Would it be outlandish to imagine her actually having to assume some sort of royal position within Radiant Garden? And whatever Sora is going through with Yozora, how will that affect him in the long run? What's he going to be like when he gets back? And while I know it might be asking for much given the nature of the series, I do think we are very long overdue for a bit of wholesome, honest-to-goodness romance. Sora and Kairi shared the Palpu fruit. She let him put his hand on the back of her head. Doesn't get much clearer than that. But it doesn't have to be them specifically. It could be Riku and Naminé, or maybe even a love triangle between Lauriam, Elrena, and whatever Demyx's real name is supposed to be. And of course, I don't expect any characters to end up getting killed off because, in the world of Kingdom Hearts,
no one's ever really gone.
In short, I want things to happen that characters cannot walk away from. I want there to be benchmarks within each individual character's story, and I really want for them to mean something. I don't want to move into the next saga feeling like nothing really changed. I want this series and its story to truly take off, not just moving forwards, but upwards. So there you have it, folks. My 14 things that I want to see in the future of the Kingdom Hearts series. Let me know about your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, whether or not you agree with what I said or if you have your own personal hopes for the series going forward. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, as I will make similar videos to this one in the future. And here's to a fun and exciting Phase 2.